All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming out to attend our session. Today, we are going to talk about how we upgrade our config manager 2012 hierarchy in Microsoft IT almost every month, just about every 6 weeks, using our automation process with Orchestrator product. My name is Karthik Jayaved. I'm a service engineer in config manager operations team, and I work with Dharmendra.
Hello, folks. Nice to see you here. I know it's pretty late in the evening, like 5 p.m., but welcome to our session. And my name is Dharmendra, and I'm one of the engineers in the configuration manager operations team in Microsoft back at Redmond.
Before we start, I would like to give some background about where we landed in this spot. Till last year, when the entire Microsoft IT was in Config Manager 2012 RTM version, we were doing our hierarchy upgrade manually by clicking on the wizards and configuring our settings manually. I'm sure most of the admins in the room would know how difficult it is to go through this manually. So when we do this upgrade every six weeks, we went through this process of upgrading our servers quite often, and sometimes there are like errors during the deployment time as well as the post-deployment time. So we wanted to avoid those errors. So we took some time and effort to create an automation process through our automation tool from the product System Center Orchestrator. And we are here to share that experience with you and how it benefited us in our upgrade process, as well as the entire benefit of this process that we follow. So our key objective is not necessarily to have you leave the session and implement whatever we did in Microsoft IT as is, but to spark some ideas within your mind to create some automation around your daily, regular, mundane activities in Config Manager so that you don't have to go through this process again and again repeatedly. And also, we are going to demonstrate with some great demos with the Orchestrator to show some runbooks how we automated these configuration manager tasks. And we are going to share some examples out of it, and then we are ensuring that we are going to give you some scripts, the installation scripts that we follow in this automation process so that you can use those scripts and kickstart in your lab, just play around with those scripts and see how you can automate your activities in Config Manager. And to emphasize the benefits of automation, we are going to tell the end result of this automation process that we follow. And I'm sure you're going to love to see this because the benefit that we reached is like huge. So before we start, how many of you here are config manager admins? I see quite a few admins, like around 50% of the audience. You will know what are the pain points of how upgrading an hierarchy on a regular basis. So this session is going to be very useful for you because you can follow follow the scripts and the automation process, and then maybe able to implement in your environment. And how many of you are familiar with Orchestrator workflow tool before? Very few hands. Okay. And how many of you are interested in scripting and coding? Okay. I know most of the admins are pretty much interested in scripting their regular activities. So just to emphasize on the Orchestrator tool, most of the administrators haven't used the System Center Orchestrator tool, which is part of the System Center suite and which you get licensed automatically when you have the System Center license. It's a workflow tool where you can add all your existing scripts and create a workflow model, and so that will automatically run the scripts and everything in an ordered fashion on all your servers. That's what we did for automation. We had our regular scripts that we roll out during the upgrade time. We just tied up everything into a workflow model in Orchestrator and then scheduled that to run through by running the runbook, we automatically get our servers upgraded in no time. So before we dive into that, I would like to explain our hierarchy model here. In Microsoft IT, we have around 6 primary sites and 13 secondary sites and around 250 distribution points. And we do manage around 300,000 desktops and laptops and around 125,000 mobile devices. All these 6 sites are spanned across geographical locations all around the world. And we also have a dedicated site to manage mobile devices, which in turn connects to Intune environment on the cloud to manage all our mobile devices. So with this large volume of clients and a big set of hierarchy, you can imagine how challenging is it for us to upgrade our servers on a regular basis within every 6 weeks without impacting the services that we provide. That's very important. So with that challenge, we're going to cover the overview of the solution, which has some more challenges into the pipe. First one is we do play dual role here. One is we are operations team. We do manage 300,000 laptops and desktops and provide many services for Microsoft IT for our customers. And also we play another role. We are the operations and testing team for Config Manager product group, the team that develops the product. So we do test the product as well as do the dogfooding within Microsoft IT network, which means whenever you get an RTM product, by the time when you get the product and install in your environment, we would have installed that around 5 to 6 times within our hierarchy. And that is not on a regular lab or a small hierarchy, on all 300,000 production desktops and laptops. So we need to make sure the services are not down and the machines are not having impact. The service and the machines are not impacted by our upgrade. That's a big challenge. And how much ever you have a super standardized document and give it to an operations guide to upgrade a server, if there is a team of people who does this upgrade, one guy does the primary site, another guy does another primary site, they may not follow the same standards even though it's super standardized. So there will be a lack of standardization. Obviously, automation is going to help you in removing this lack of standardization. So that's the main goal for us, to bring the standardization within the upgrade process. And the next one is changing products and prerequisites. When we started building the solution, we started with a basic workflow model that worked for the preliminary version, say like .NET 3.5 or 4. But then we saw that we need to accommodate the upcoming versions too. So we then made our scripts as well as the workflow model the version agnostics. So even though when we get different server version or different .NET version, we ensure that all our scripts and workflow works seamlessly. And obviously, whenever there is a configuration change done by a person or a human after the deployment, there is a tendency to make an error, and that could cause a replication problem or a backlog on your hierarchy that could impact your service very much. So we want to make sure those post-deployment errors won't be happening because of the solution. So the solution that we created is called as Cuttlefish. It's not an external name. It's an internal name that we came up with this project. The reason behind is one of our core engineers, who is very fanatic about giving some interesting names for the projects that he works on, came up with this name called Cuttlefish, based on an animal or a fish, which changes its color based on the environment where it is and adapt to it very quickly, which aligns pretty much well with the solution that we built. With the changing environment we have in Microsoft IT, this automated solution adapts fast and then work seamlessly whenever there is an upgrade. And next, we used a lot of scripts for our upgrade when we did everything manually. So we wanted to take the scripts, put it in one place, and make it as an automated tool. So we reused all those scripts in our workflow model. And obviously, we use System Center Orchestrator. That's the workflow product that we use. And the Virtual Machine Manager. Whenever we build a site or a site role, we also build a VM accordingly. So if you have seen any Microsoft IT presentation before, most of our servers, around 90% of our servers, are running under virtual systems. So whenever we want to expand our servers, we build a VM immediately. So we use VMM and VMM product, and then we use the workflow model to create a VM first and then deploy the role accordingly. And the next one is Virtual Studio Team Foundation Server. This is, again, an internal process. We use this product in VSTF for ticketing purposes as well as some project management. You don't need to follow the same method because you may have a different ticketing process for us. Our orchestrator workflow model is tied up with this VSTF Foundation Server. So whenever there is a ticket created for upgrade, it automatically gets the ticket and then does the upgrade, as well as updates the ticket once that upgrade is done. And the last one is an important one, because when we started this project, all the entire automation process is based on XML. So we started doing it, the manual edit to the XML file. But as everyone knows, that when you make some mistakes, a typo in your XML, the entire process breaks. So I don't know whether you like to edit XMLs manually. We, in our team, we don't like to touch XMLs manually. So we created a PowerShell-based UI to edit XMLs within the team, so which enables admins to go and change the XMLs to make the workflow model work. Why do we need the XML? We're going to talk about that very soon in our demo, as well as in our coming slides. And the benefits we reached are all the tasks that we do for upgrade are repeatable. That means we are going to take the same set of tasks and reuse that in the next version of upgrade. Also, we can use those tasks in a different workflow, meaning upgrade task can have a log copy task. The same task can be used for something else. So it can be reused in multiple workflow, not necessarily for upgrade alone. And scripts and templates that we use are not sometimes standardized, because one admin copies the script into his local machine and reuse that. Another admin use it from a share. Another admin use it from the source control. So there is no formal standard that the admins follow for upgrade, which ends up in errors and problems. So automation will alleviate this problem because it's going to use these scripts and the templates stored in the common share, and no one can access that. Also, we are using some commonly used scripts in the past and then leverage them and then make this workflow model work together. And it's because of this, we are free of manual deployment errors because everything is done through automation. And the last important point is the reduction in the man hours. We have cut down our man hours in upgrade timing tremendously. And importantly, our MSIT stakeholders need not wait for a long time to deploy some patch or some software application just because the services or the servers or the hierarchy is down due to the upgrade. So if your upgrade is taking like too long time, none of the services will be available, so they cannot deploy something to their machines. So the reduction in man hours and doing this upgrades quicker, faster, and cleaner has helped them a lot in the regular day-to-day work. So there are three components in Cuttlefish. First one is UI and workflow. The UI is the one that I explained, the PowerShell UI, to update the XML. And the workflow is based on the runbook that we used through the orchestrator. And the second important thing is task list and config list. These are the XML files that I explained before. Task list is nothing but list of things to be done before the upgrade and during the upgrade. Say like a prereq check, or copy the bits from the share to the local machine. These are the different tasks. Then check for post-deployment configurations. These are different tasks, and that is configured in task list. What is config list? The parameters like the server name where you want to run this, or the share name that you want to copy the path, the files from. So the parameters that you pass on to the task is covered in config list. And of course, the task engine is orchestrator. So with that, let's see what are the things that we achieved for the SP1 R2, the recent R2 upgrade, the preview upgrade that we did recently in Microsoft IT. So what we did is we created a work item, and the admin person started the run book in Orchestrator and didn't do anything after that, zero touch. The sites got upgraded fully by the automation tool. And the person who started the run book has to watch the logs to make sure the end-to-end process of upgrade was working fine. That's all he did. He was just watching through the logs. The entire automation, the upgrade has been done by the automation tool. And we used the task config file and build config file. Here are the examples of task config file. For the upgrade, we used the task location and the command parameters and everything, and the success criteria for it are all configured in the task config file. And the build config file will pass the parameter for all these scripts. When we show the demo of this, you will come to know how you can easily understand what's the difference between the task file and the build file. So we are going to show a couple of demos. The one important demo that we have is the site upgrade, which is going to take like 30 minutes. We are going to do the upgrade right here. So by the time when we leave the session, the site will get upgraded from RTM to SP1. And the second scenario is to add a site system role, for example, a distribution point. We're going to add a distribution point and a distribution point group into the site. And the last one is fairly simple, but tend to get a lot of errors. Basically, we are going to go and change some WSS products as well as enable some client reboot behavior. All these client agent settings we are going to change. Though it looks simple, if an admin person misses to check that, it can cause some problems. So it's minute, but it's like a big issue. It can cause a big problem. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Dharmendra to start the site upgrade, and then go over with the process.
All right. Do you guys hear me well? Okay. So let's see the demos. Okay. So this is the site server, primary site server. Can you guys see the build number here? It's 7711. That's the Configuration Manager 2012 RTM build number. So once we do our demo, it should get upgraded to SP1 build. Okay, so this is the site server. So let's go and let's go ahead and initiate the orchestrator right now. So what typically the folks back do is, let me put in my credentials and log in into the system. So that's our orchestrator web console, and we're going to go ahead and start the runbook. And it's going to ask us about the work item number. This work item number is the same thing that Karthik was talking earlier, that we use the TFS work item system. So it's basically, there are a number of work item systems like Remedy. Most of you guys may be using Remedy, but if you're using TFS, it basically for each activity you do, to follow the best practices of the ITL, you have to create a work item and record the changes. So basically what it is asking is that, give me the work item number that is authorized to make this change, right? That's what it's asking. So I got some work item numbers here, which we can punch in. Okay, so this is what the real guy who is really upgrading will do it. He's going to open this runbook and punch in the work item number. Okay, 604382. 604382. And then it's going to take an action server, right? And then he will start. And that's it. That's all he needs to do. Take out the work item number that's authorized to make the change on the hierarchy and just punch in. Rest, everything happens automatically. I'm going to explain to you what all we do. So let's go back. Because the upgrade is going to take a few minutes, so in the meantime, we'll go back and see what's happening in the back end, and then we'll go back and see how it is doing it. So why do we need to do it? As Karthik said, we have to do dog food. There's no escape. before the products get released, we need to upgrade our hierarchy like 6 to 7 major builds so that we test it on all the site servers and all the 300,000 clients. So we must do it. Does that mean we get exception from the service KPIs? Can we stop patching because we are doing the dog food build? No. We still need to meet all our KPIs and SLAs. We still need to do patching through the configuration manager. We still need to do software distribution. So there is no lenience there. Hey, because we are upgrading, we can slip patching this month and stuff. So we need automation solutions to do this because we cannot be down for a lot of time, right? Another thing is that because we do too many changes, it's nice to do with automation because whenever people do manual changes, we always had issues. So we need the automation. So that's why we had to build it because we did not have any other way. So especially in this particular example, what are we doing? We are doing the site upgrade, right? Most of you guys are familiar with these steps, but I will go through them. In our scenarios, we do a little bit of extra steps because this is a dog food test cycle stuff. When I use the word dog food, that's the internal term that we use. That means that we are running the beta builds, we are installing the beta builds, and we are testing them on our production hierarchy. So we do a little bit of extra steps here. But typically what we do in the site upgrade is that we take the backup of the database, we test the restore, because if the next build did not work, we need to restore the old build, so we must test the backup and restore that's working each time we change the build. And we run the test DB upgrade, makes sure that the DB is nice and ready for upgrading. And then we back up our old configuration manager logs, which most of you guys don't, but we do it because we sometimes compare the logs between two installations and see, well, is everything going fine in case we need to debug the issue. And then obviously we have to copy the source bits to the target server, which has the new build. And then we run some QC checks. QC checks like, is the replication broken, or it's degraded, or it's still intact? We don't upgrade if the replication is having an issue because you'll still have an issue after you upgrade too. So the automation comes back and says, hey, warning, replication is in bad state. Then we stop the upgrade and then go and fix the replication first, let it settle down, and then go back and initiate the task again. And we do the site server upgrades. And after that, post-installation, we do some steps like we re-import our MOF file. That's for inventory. We do a lot of customization and add a lot of custom hardware inventory settings. So we want to re-import it as soon as we finish the upgrade. And then we do a lot of shared permissions. Go ahead, Karthik.
Okay. Actually, I would like to emphasize that import MOF customization, that's one of the tasks that we do post-install. We have seen sometimes the error happening, but an admin copying a wrong MOF extension that could just remove the inventory for all machines for a particular class, right? So we do a lot of customization for hardware inventory. So it is very important for us to maintain the same standard MOF in file to be copied. So automation has helped us a lot to avoid that error. So like it always copies it from the source control, the write file, and then to distribute to all our sites. So that helped us in avoiding all these hardware inventory problems during the upgrade time.
All right. The other steps we do are we add the performance counters for our application catalog. Performance counters are pretty important for us because we are running this dog food build to test. So we want those reports coming out of the performance counters. And then we run post-QC checks, like after the upgrade, is replication broken or it's still intact and stuff. And then we execute some custom SQL scripts that do, we have custom maintenance tasks to run indexing, etc. So we execute them as part of the post-install. So end-to-end steps, these are the steps that we do for a typical site upgrade, and all this thing right now the orchestrator is doing one or the other step as we are talking. I'll show you how it does and all that stuff, right? So earlier, Karthik was talking about a custom XML UI editor. So let me show you that. Okay. Let me bring it up here. Let me flip over. So this is the custom XML UI editor that we built. So basically, earlier we punched in the work item number. So let's go ahead and punch the work item number again into this. Let's put it in the read mode. Okay, 604382. Okay, now say connect to TFS. So basically right now what it's doing is that it's connecting to the TFS server in the back, and then loading what is there in the ticket. The ticket has some data, right? This is authorized for doing so-and-so activity. So it's talking to the TFS and loading the data into this. Let's see what it loaded. So basically, this is the task config, which Karthik was talking about. So basically, it has list of steps it needs to do or list of tasks. Say, for example, this is there are a few tasks here that we talked about, right? It's backing up the primary database. It's backing up the CM logs. It's disabling the SQL jobs. It's running the upgrade, and then applying the share permissions back. And how is it doing it? You see the location here. So there are scripts that does. So I know Karthik touched base about earlier that before doing this project, we already had scripts to do one or other individual tasks. So that's why I built this wrapper called Cuttlefish. Basically, what it does is that this wrapper sits on the top and uses all your old scripts. So that's what it is doing for each task. So in this location... Okay.
Just to interject there. So if you want to know how the orchestrator works, I would like to explain that start with a small project or a small script and build a small workflow to make sure that you understand orchestrator and how it works and everything. Then build your confidence over that and then start working on the super complex workflow. So that because initially it took like, when we started, we were like 2-3 admins knowing how orchestrator works. And then we took like probably a month or so for everyone to onboard with this technology. And it was fairly simple. If you know how to build a workflow or a flow chart, I'm sure that you can build a workflow to have this automated very soon, provided you have all your scripts in line with that. So start writing a small script and a small workflow and build your confidence with this product so that you can also automate all your tasks.
All right. So we have a source folder, like most of you guys have, and we dump all our scripts here, and then call them in the Cuttlefish in an order. So that's how the Cuttlefish works. So if you see here in the module name, right now because we are upgrading the primary site server, it loaded the primary module. If you're doing for a secondary site, because it reads the ticket and it knows that what kind of activity is requested out of it, it is intelligent enough to load the appropriate module and do the appropriate steps. That's why the guy who upgraded it did not bother about all of this. He just only punched in the number. In the back end, it reads the ticket and it understands that it needs to do the primary site upgrade, and it will load all these modules in these steps, and it goes through them in an order. So this is about the task config. Then we have build config. So the build config is like where you specify your parameters. Say, for example, what's the database name, or where you should back up, what's the location you need to back up your site database to, what's your SQL server name, and where are the prerequisites located, what is the source folder where the new build information is located. So here you can change these parameters if you want to. If you want to upgrade a different site, you can give a different site name. If you want to put a backup on a different drive, because the drive what is automatically fed in the system is full, you can still modify the stuff here. That's why we have two different views. One is the task view and the build config view. The common changing parameters, we expose it in the build config so that the guy who is running it, depending upon the current situation on which drive is free or what site he's doing it, he can still go ahead and change it. But if everything is properly fed into the work item, he doesn't need to touch anything like that, because I did not touch any of these right now. So this is about the Cuttlefish and the Cuttlefish UI and how we developed it. It necessarily need not have to be the same for you guys, but it's just an example that we want to show you how things can be done and stuff. So let's go ahead and see how far our site went. Let's minimize this. Actually, it's on the same server. Okay, let's go here. We do logging on what all activities that is happening here. Let's go and open the logs. Right? The name of the work item we did is this, 604382. We create the logs with the work item number, so it's pretty easy to, when we do an audit or the ITL best recommendations, there should be a corresponding logs for each activity we do. So the logs folder name is nothing but the ticket name, and you can go into that thing. And then the next step folder is based on the timestamp. So we will see what is the timestamp we just created. That would be this? No. Oh yeah, because it's in the PST time, so it's 8:31. So this is the logs which we're creating. And if you can open the logs, let's maximize this thing a bit. So where are we right now? Oh, it fired the run setup upgrade.ps1 file. So that means it's at the step where it is upgrading the site. But what all did it did? So you see that first what it is doing is that it's copying the files, the code files, like the PS1 files that we built. It copies all these files, and then it goes through each activity. For example, right now, here it was doing the backup of the site upgrade, which is a part of the step it's supposed to do. So it's going one step after the step. Right now, it is at the last but one step that is running the site upgrade, the real site upgrade, setup.exe in an uninstall mode, and then it's going to go and apply the permissions. I think it's going to take 15-20 minutes. While this is going on, we'll go ahead and kick on our other demos that we need to do, like a site install and configuration changes. Then then we're going to come back and see how far it went through. Okay. With that, we will do the new site system role, and I think I would invite Karthik to do that.
Okay. So we are going to build a new distribution point or add a new system role to the same site server and add it to a DP group. That's the demo. And before we go in there, why do we do this? We do have this business requirement oftentimes because whenever we want to expand our hierarchy, and if there is a new site or we want to have a new location, we add DPs in our hierarchy. So it's a very fair, common request that we get. So we built a workflow for, we have a requirement for that, and then so we built an automation workflow to add a DP, MP, and some other site roles too.
Just to add a real-time scenario for that, we manage the retail stores for Microsoft too. You know that Microsoft these days is putting retail stores. Each and every month or month and a half, they install a new store somewhere across the globe and say, hey, we need to put a DP there, right? So this is what we use. When a new pilot store comes up, we use this solution to put a DP each time somebody wants it.
Okay. And every time when you do that, it needs an IIS configuration and all other components configuration for DP or MP management points. So it is time consuming, and if a person misses that setting, it's going to cause a problem. So these are the business case requirements that we have, and obviously the benefits are big because we avoid errors as well as we can expand very fast, like Dharmendra mentioned. Like whenever there is a new store comes in for Microsoft Retail, we just add a DP very fast. Okay. So let's see the demo. Okay. So first, I'm going to show whether the DP role is there or not. Okay. To type in the password. Okay. So this is one of the primary sites in the lab. So here there is, let's see, the roles that this site plays. As you can see, there are all other roles but no distribution point in this. And there is no distribution point group also mentioned or configured on this site. So we are going to kick off a runbook to add a DP on this site as well as the DP group. For that, I'm going to go back to our orchestrator server and then use the console. And as you can see, it's the same cuttlefish workflow and it's the same runbook. I'm not calling a different runbook here. It's the same runbook. It's going to the same workflow. It's going to automatically understand the work item and see what's there in the build config and do only the DP role installation. So for that, I have to start the runbook and punch in the work item number.
Here. And as you can see that he doesn't have to wait till my work item is finished. He can parallelly execute a number of work items. because we have a number of action servers, orchestrator action servers, to take that load and distribute that load among themselves.
Okay. So I just kickstarted that workflow. I'm going to show how that what that workflow does basically on the build config file. So to do that, I'm going to see the build config file by going into the view mode and typing in the same work item number that I started, 604961. And as you can see, the config files will automatically get added into your local temp file. Let's see that. C temp. So this is the task config file. Basically, we are saying install the DP and run this script, and this is the domain name, and this all the script. The task config file talks about the script and everything. And if I open up the build config file, it will tell me the server name, which is CF2 test pry, and the group demo, the DP group name, which is just demo. So the parameters that we are passing to the script will be in the build config. Okay, let me close this, and then let's see how far that DP installation have gone through, because it takes very less time to do a DP role. So C drive, cuttlefish, 961, this. Okay. As you can see, it's now copying the files, meaning the script file, onto the target server, and it will kickstart the DP role very soon. Yes, it is doing the DP role installation. The name of the script is install_DP_role PS1, which is a PowerShell script. So while that is going on, let's go and check the build config. Whatever we saw in the XML, as you can see, they are here on the right side, which is like where to copy the location of it, and the server name, and everything is on the right side for this file. The file, the PS1 file, I'm sorry, and the PS1 file names will be on this. Repeat the test file. Okay. Here. The server name and the demo DP group name and all this are configured on the build config, and the task config file will say the PS1 files that we are running now. Okay. And also, I'm going and checking whether the upgrade is running or not in parallel. The upgrade is still running. As you can see, the upgrade.site PS1 is still running. So the upgrade is also working at the back end for the different site. Okay. Right? Now, the DP install is successful. So let's go and check whether the DP is created on the site. Okay. So now, if I go back to the site server, I do see the distribution point, which wasn't there before. So it did create the distribution point role on the server, and it may take some time for the point demo. Oh, okay, it did finish that. It did create the DP group also, and also added the DP into the DP group successfully. So the automation tool has finished this process end to end to add the site system role. And the upgrade is going on at the back end. With that, I'm going to call Dharmendra to do the third demo, which I mentioned before, to add some site configuration.
All right. So site configurations, which is a common thing that most of you guys do. You guys may not do the server upgrades that frequently like we do, but I'm pretty sure you guys would do the site configurations. So again, why do we do site configurations through the orchestrator? When our people try to do it manually, there's always a mistake happens, and we always repent on that. Especially, we not only dog food configuration manager, but we also dog food various products like Forefront and stuff. So we will switch between whether the Forefront definitions are coming through the Microsoft update, or it's coming through our dog food update server. So we enable, disable various products in the software update component, so that the updates won't come from the Microsoft update, but it comes from the dog food updates because we're testing those products too. So we do a lot of these product classification changes. And Microsoft is a big company, so a lot of boundaries keep on coming up in different locations. So we add boundaries and we configure the boundary group. So there are a lot of tasks that we do. And when people do it manually, they tend to do it every day. So we said that nobody's doing anything manually. We'll do like once in a week or once in 2 weeks, like once the RFCs get approved, right? It's the ITL process. And we are going to use the automation to do it. And the automation forces people to use the peer review. So we put a process in the orchestrator workflow that somebody needs to go and review and approve the ticket that somebody filed. It's not like that one day I think, I'm going to change the configuration. I'm going to go and do on my own. No. We're going to bulk update all the changes at one shot, and we're going to have a peer review process. So to bring out some process and discipline and do it in a faster way, so we had to do the automation for the site configuration too. So let's go ahead.
And one other point to note down there is like the person who does the peer review will not have access to basically modify any of the configuration. Only the requester will have the access to it. Just because though the admin who is doing the peer review is super confident about making them some changes, if you make some changes without talking to the requester, it can cause some problem. So we put some stringent measure to make sure the peer review person, the admin, will not have the full edit access to the file, so that it will go back to the requester to make the change and come back. So these are all the process things that we follow to make sure no mistakes are done, even though we have a good automation tool with us.
All right, let's go and change some settings and put them back. Say, for example, the organization name in the client agent settings is set to Cuttlefish Demo. Remove that and put it IT, some name. You can put. And also here there are some custom client agent settings. Let's see what they are. And let's remove them and recreate them. We have custom client agent settings to toggle the bits, the background intelligent transfer. And also we have custom configuration settings to define the computer restart or reboot settings for a certain collection of machines. So let's go ahead and delete this thing completely. All right. And what else? Boundaries. We're talking about boundaries. All the times boundaries keep coming up on big companies. So let's go ahead and delete these boundaries so that let the Cuttlefish or our automation create it. Okay, let's go ahead and delete all these boundaries. And boundary groups, let's go ahead and delete them as well. All right. All right. What else did we talk about? The software update configurations. Let's go ahead and do that too. Let's take the central site, component settings, subject point. Okay. Looks like I took it on the primary site. Let's go ahead and do it on the central site. Yeah, there you go. Take a map. Let's look at the products. Say for example, right now we should not have the Bing bar getting serviced by us, but let's go ahead and enable it so that the orchestrator reverts it back. And even the antigen for Exchange, it's being dog-fooded. It should not come from Microsoft Update. It should go from dog food, but go ahead and enable it so that the orchestrator reverts that. Footprint endpoint protection is required. Let's go ahead and uncheck it. So that we give a chance for the orchestrator to put these settings back, okay? So we completely messed up our hierarchy right now, and I don't know what all I messed up too. So let's go ahead and run the orchestrator so that it puts the settings back, okay? So again, as usual, we need to have work item for this. I have work item with me. Let's go ahead and initiate the runbook. Oh, that's the runbook server. All right, this is the, let's go and start the runbook. I'm waiting for the UI to come up. Yep, there you go. So what's the work item number authorized for this? It's 604.962, and we're going to select our action servers again, and then we're going to click on start. So let's go and see what this 604.962 means in the Cuttlefish UI. Here we're going to flip this so that it lets it edit it. So it's 604.962 is the work item number. Now let's go ahead and connect to TFS server. Okay, it connected. Now let's review the task config. So you can see that the kind of tasks that this work item is authorized for is to configure the boundaries, create the custom client agent settings, the same thing what we saw, the background, intelligent transfer, and the reboot settings, and then configure the subproducts, like what we disabled, a lot of stuff, right? But we have a template, what should be the right setting, so it is going to go and keep it, insert it back. And we are going to reconfigure the default client agent settings. Remember, I changed the default client agent settings of the organization name. I removed the name what was there and put IT. So it has the code for all these things. As I said again, all the scripts are here. Basically, it's calling one after the other, and we're going to share all these scripts with you. Now let's go and see the build config. So basically, here the parameter is going to do only one thing. So what are we changing? It's client agent settings. But you saw that I went and backed the software update settings, right? But how does it know what it needs to enable and what it needs to disable? So here is the XML file that it's reading. Say, for example, you go and see here in the task config, the configure sub is basically in this directory, and it's reading this file. Basically, the PS1 file is reading this XML file, right? So what does this XML file have information? It says that there are 3 products which we should need to be worried about: Fortran, Antigen, and Bing Bar. You can see that these are, let me highlight it for you guys. These are in the, not able to highlight for some reason, but these are on the disabled section, and the Fortran is in the enabled section. That's how the automation knows what needs to be enabled and what needs to be disabled. So let's go and see, is the automation running or what's happening? So let's go to the Cuttlefish. 962 is our work item number. 848, yeah, this is ours. So it says that right now it's adding boundaries. So it's going to take a bit of time. But let's talk about the Cuttlefish UI. So one feature, what I want to share with you guys is that you see that here there are 1, 2, 3, 4 tasks, right? So here in the build config, you can see this starting task ID and the ending task ID. Say, for example, in the site upgrade, right? Site upgrade can fail for a number of reasons, right? For example, we did the first task like database restore. We backed up the DB. We did, say, install the IAS, but it failed during the setup, say, for example, for some odd reason. That means you failed on the step 3 or step 4, right? Now, you go and figure out why it failed, maybe some reason, then you go and set it back on. Now, if you want to fire the orchestrator, there is no need for you to go from the step 1. Here, you can change this starting task ID. So you know up till what task ID you went through because you're looking at the log and it failed on the task 4. So you can start from whatever task, you can resume from whatever task that was failed from. So you don't have to run. So in the kind of the long steps, especially in the hierarchy upgrades and stuff, some sites get upgraded, some sites get failed and all that stuff. So you don't have to, if you have to rerun the whole thing, you don't have to rerun the whole thing. You can start from the task where you left off, and you can do that.
Another live example there is if you are upgrading your hierarchy and you want to upgrade CAS and then pause that, see everything is good, and then proceed with the primary site server upgrade. Then you can stop the automation and then continue with the primary site, making sure everything is good. So that kind of flexibility this UI lets you to do to stop and start at wherever you want.
All right, let's go and see our log while it's happening. Let me maximize it for you. So it did added boundaries, all right. And then it's doing create custom agent settings. It did that also very well. Now it's configuring the subproducts. So it's finished that too. So it's waiting for some other step. But let's go and see how well it did the boundaries. In the meanwhile, it finishes. So let's go to the server. So this is a server where we deleted the boundaries. If you go and click the boundaries, see they're back and they're just created now. Yeah, like 2 minutes ago. These are the new boundaries that got created. Let's see if it added them into the boundary groups. Yeah, it sure did add them into the boundary groups. It added one into the fast group and other into the slow group. Let's see how it is doing on the client agent settings. Where is that? Here you go. So here you go. The demo custom client agent setting is back, right? You guys remember we deleted it, right? So here background bit settings are back, computer restart settings are back. Let's go and see what happened to the default setting we changed. Changed it in the computer agent. Here you go. We changed this and put it to a name called IT, but now it's back to Cuttlefish demo. So in this way, you can control all the settings in an automated fashion, and you can add new boundaries. Let's go and see the software updates thing. What happened to that?
This is just an example of what are the things that you can do. Actually, you can do many things on this, not only on the client agent settings, adding a security group, giving access to the console. So the sky is the limit here. So if you have this scripting knowledge, and if you work with the orchestrator for some weeks, you can definitely automate a lot of your day-to-day activities with less errors.
See, it went and disabled the big bar because in our XML file, the big bar was set to disable. And even for the antigen, it went and disabled the antigen. Let's see if it went and enabled the forefront, which we disabled earlier. See, it went and enabled the forefront endpoint protection settings. It's so tough for a human to do this right? I mean, there are a number of configurations. I only showed you 3 here. If each time, because we do so many build upgrades during the course of an year, and we keep on changing them, nobody remembers what's the right setting. So if you have an automation, it knows what it needs to do. And even if somebody has a document, even if they need to do once, if you have like 30, 40 settings here, if they do like checking 30 times can be very error prone. So that's the reason why we recommend using automation, and that's why we use that. So that's the demos so far. Let's see if what is happening on our server upgrade. How far it came to. Let's open the log file. Actually, it completed. It was pretty fast. It says hierarchy build successfully upgraded. It said it even applied the share permissions we are talking about. Here it is running it's running the PS1 file for the site upgrade, and then it applied the permissions. So let's go ahead and see what happened there. So go. Let's get onto that server. Okay, that's interesting. And that's fine. Server box. Okay, let's go ahead and log in. So let's go ahead and refresh the console. So here earlier we highlighted that 7711. Let's go ahead and refresh the console and see what does it say now. See here, now it says 7804. That's the SP1 RTM build. So we upgraded our entire site from the RTM build to SP1 RTM build. It's so easy it is. So we were doing some steps right. So let's see, like we are backing up the log files and stuff. Did it really happen? So CM log file backup. We did a backup at 824. This is our latest log files. And also we backed up our database, right? Let's go and see if it really backed it up. See, backup 822. This is the latest backup, site database backup it did. So it really does all the stuff what it has been shown. and it's so easy it is. So in reality, the guy who was doing it opens that UI and punches in the work item number, and boom, it goes. Let's look at a little bit on the process-wise how it works. Let's come back. So one more thing before I go to the process. Right now, we showed you the only few samples of how to do the site upgrade and stuff, but we also build a lot of labs because we need to test some other stuff, and also we bring up new primary sites and stuff. Not only we do the site upgrades, but we can on the fly spin up a new entire hierarchy with this automation. We talk to the cuttlefish is going to talk to the SVMM and then fire up a new virtual machine. And then it's going to do the prerequisites, like it's going to install the IIS and then configure the IIS for its log directory, log size, and it's going to configure the firewall rules. And then it's going to install some other prerequisites, like install the ADK and install the WSUS, configure the WSUS content directory and the database location. And then it's going to install the central site first, and then it's going to install the primary site first. So if your ticket says that upgrade the entire hierarchy, it's going to load the full set of modules, like the central site module, primary site module, secondary site module, and it's going to run through all these steps, and the same way that it did earlier when we were doing the site upgrade. It backed up the logs, it backed up the database, and goes one after another. In the same way, you can even in an hour or two, you can even float the entire new hierarchy with this automation. Okay, how is this workflow going? So let me see if I can point at this thing. Yeah, there you go. It works. So this is a guy who's a requester. Say a PM or somebody files a work item using the Cuttlefish UI and says that, hey, can you float a new primary site? Because in Microsoft, everybody has like 7 to 8 machines per box. So we reach the limit on a site. So we need a new primary site. You guys know the limit on primary site is 100,000. And we have over 300,000 clients. I think right now, 330K is the right number. We have 330,000 machines. So somebody saw that, hey, we are tipping the supportability limits on a site and uses the Cuttlefish UI and files a work item. It talks to TFS server at the back end and registers the change and send the notification to the team saying that, hey, somebody is requesting this change. Can you peer review it? So here's a gentleman from the same team. Then he opens his work item and sees that the request what he made is genuine. Or what are the changes he is making is genuine. He's going to re-verify that using this UI, what we showed you, the Cuttlefish UI. And once he is satisfied that all the changes that he requested are proper, appropriate, he's going to approve that. And then there's an implementer persona. He is going to open the orchestrator web console, just like I did, and he's going to click on the start the workbook. It's going to bring up an UI asking him what is the authorized work item number. He's going to use the work item number that this guy approved here. And he's going to punch in work item number and say start. And then the orchestrator server has a lot of action servers, which is not being depicted here, but it has a lot of action servers, and it's going to use one of the action servers and copies the binaries that all the PS1 files, VB files, batch files, along with the build files to the build in the sense the configuration manager build file if you're upgrading a site to these target servers. I mean, one can be a primary site, secondary site. It copies all the necessary files to the servers and executes them and monitors remotely. So that's the whole solution and how we do it. So the people, we make sure that they follow the ITL practices by making the file a work item, but making sure that they are peer reviewing it. So it's not like one guy thought something and he ends up doing it. It's just a peer review process, and then automation is done through the orchestrator. And we don't execute anything remotely. We copy everything onto the local machine. We only monitor remotely. So that's how this end-to-end automation workflow begins. Well, to conclude the topic and give you the results of the effect it had in our environment, I would again invite Karthik to conclude it.
So let's see some results achieved on this. So these are the 4 important user cases or user scenarios that we used this tool for. First one is the upgrades. We have upgraded our hierarchy, as you can see, like we're in CDP2, Beta, RC, and RTM. So these many cycles have gone through for upgrade in our hierarchy. And we used automation, the cuttlefish automation process for that. So every time when we used it in the past for upgrade, it used to take like a few days to get this server upgraded, hierarchy upgraded. But with this tool, with this automation process, the hierarchy was upgraded within 24 hours. So the downtime was cut down tremendously, and then we could achieve some great results out of this. And as Dharmendra mentioned, oftentimes we get to build the labs for various dog fooding efforts. So we use cuttlefish to build the VMMs, or the VMs using VMM, and then configure the sites and the DP roles and management points. And so when these kind of requests come every month, we have to go through a lot of effort to build such labs. So this with the cuttlefish, it's a no-brainer for us. We're just going to get this information and run the runbook. The site is ready with all the configuration and everything. And we also showed a demo for the site roles, DP, MP, and sub. We use this quite often whenever we want to expand our site, because 6 months before it was like 300,000. Now it's 330,000 machines. So we need to accommodate these machines and mobile devices that are coming in Microsoft IT environment. So we always keep expanding our hierarchy. So when we want to do that, we don't want to go through this process of doing IIS and all this installation and configuration for a long time. So we use automation tool, and we just do it in no time. And for recently, we started doing the Intune and mobile device management. So we build couple of labs. And as you know, Intune requires a separate standalone hierarchy because it needs to have its own domain and everything. So building a domain controller with all the site roles and everything, it's going to take a lot of time. As well as if you want to build a VMM for it, if you have a different team that does the VM installation, they take some time. They have their certain SLA, and they take 2 days to do that, and then they give the VMM. Then you install the site. So it delays the project. It delays the entire installation. So with the automation tool, you do everything in one click of a button, and you're going to get all the VMs created, all DC, domain controller, site roles, site hierarchy, CAS and primary, everything gets created within 4 hours. Just imagine that you build a site, test full site, and test something, and then decommission that and build another lab in another 4 hours. So it gives that power of just building the labs and get you tested more frequently, more efficiently. That's the benefit of this tool that we achieved. And the lessons learned, I'm going to divide this into 3 pillars. People, process, and technology. We achieved the technology part of it because we used the automation, PowerShell, orchestrator, everything in there. But people is only as good as process is only as good as people following it. So even though you have a perfect process and a good automation tool, if the people are not following the process and the automation, then it's no good. So that's what we learned. We used to have a lot of scripts, and though we automated many things, we followed a perfect process. If the people are not following it, it's going to be actually a failure. And follow some guidelines for scripts as well as the best practices for logging. Why we say this is, we build scripts, and 6 months down the lane, another coder come in, and then he sees that script, and he couldn't understand anything in that script. So he has to either rewrite everything or scratch that and write a new code. So that's another extra waste of time, as well as the logs. When we started, we didn't do much of a good job with the logging. And so when we tried to track down the failures and troubleshooting the problems, we had some tough time. So that's when we understood that we had to log all information, whatever the upgrade process or whatever the workflow does. So that helped us in doing and understanding the steps that are steps that are in the progress of the automation. For example, we have 2 logs. One is the orchestrator log, which will just give a high-level overview of where your automation process is going on. But in case if there is a failure, we have another log called debug log, which will tell which particular WMI class is failing or not able to access, or which registry key is failed to write. So this will give you an extra additional value to troubleshoot the problem. And last but not least, we are going to share the scripts with you through our SkyDrive, Open SkyDrive. But it's just take those scripts, don't just implement that as is. Test it, and test it within your lab, and make changes as per your environment. Or maybe you may want to take it as an example and rewrite the code as per your needs. Don't just take it and then just exactly run. Because when we run certain codes without testing, that cause some problem. That can cause some problem for you too. And as I told before,
I thought that we did not show the runbook at all, even though the runbook is just a bunch of flows. I thought I will show the runbook for 1 minute, which we are going to share all the runbooks too, but I thought we'll just show the runbook for a minute. So where the magic is happening.
Runbook is nothing but in the orchestrator, the workflow, the tying of the scripts, how they are tied. That's called runbook. Dharmendra is going to show that.
So this is the start cuttlefish, which I'm using in the web console to fire the UI, where it is asking for the work item number. This is how the workflow typically looks like. So here it gets the work item status, and it sees it's a valid work item or not. It goes and checks whether the who approved it and who filed it, hope they are not same. So it basically goes through all the checks and hopes, and then makes sure it's a valid work item. And the work requested in the work item is known to the system. Now, if you say something else like install an exchange in the work item, and if there's no module for it, obviously it won't understand it. So basically, it's looking at the work item, what you file is a known task for it. It's going to initialize. It's going to go to the initialize phase. Here, it's basically we are trying to fire a new VM if we need more resources. Otherwise, if we don't need the new resources for in the site upgrade and stuff, we directly go to the build CM. We're going to get the CM server data from the build config, and then we're going to fire the upgrade the site process.
Okay. One thing here is that in the previous initialize module, you can see there are like multiple modules inside that, right? Say like for example, in the initialize, you could see build VM and then build VM log. These are not tied up to this particular workflow alone. This can be replaced and used in many places. So once you build this, you can use this in multiple workflows and then create the full workflow end to end.
And then in the process, if you go to execute, this is where the main thing happens. This is where we have, as I said, right, we have a lot of conglomeration of scripts that we wrote specifically for this project, and we also had scripts earlier, some kind of automation to do individual tasks. So our automation can range from a VB script to a batch file to a PowerShell. So we have these individual steps that fetch the appropriate files and file them appropriately. Say, for example, in the VBS, for the VBS, you fire with the cscript.exe, right? So that's the engine. So that's why we need to have different, because the system should understand. In the same way, for PowerShell, it uses PowerShell.exe. So that's why we build different workflows so that we can handle, because we have all this conglomeration of files, fewer batch files, VB scripts, PowerShells. So we build all these steps so that it can take basically any automation that you throw at it. It doesn't have to be in PowerShell. If you have VB script, it can still take it. If you have batch file, it can still take it. So this way you can build. You don't have to sit and recode all the stuff to the latest and greatest automation software that's available. It can take anything what you have. If you guys want to use ours. So that's the one point I want to show you guys. And once it's done, it goes and basically updates the work item with the results. So it does that too. So it's just not that it upgrades the site and sits it, whether it's successful or not, because everything is tracked through the work item, right? It goes and updates the work item and say, I successfully upgraded this site, and it's closing the work item so that the work item lifecycle is finished as per the ITIL standards. So let's get on.
Let's talk about the additional resources. This is the SkyDrive link, which is open, where we have around 20 odd scripts that we developed to build this workflow, and they are categorized based on the task, say like boundary configuration or a client agent settings. So you can easily take them and then use them and use them as an example and then build your own scripts as per your needs. But one other point to notice, if you like automation and if you want to use this script, when you open this our scripts, you could see we have lines and lines of code to make this work, because we started this automation way before. But in SP1, we have around, in the product itself, we have around 400 plus PowerShell commandlets included, which comes with the site itself. So when you install the site, you have this 400 PowerShell commandlets already built in with that. So you may not necessarily use the same script. Some of them can be just clubbed into few lines with this already existing PowerShell commandlets. We strongly recommend you to go and check those PowerShell commandlets and then start running your creating your scripts. And the last one is an interesting toolkit in SP1 to add the package content for the DPs. This is what we use in our retail stores that Dharmendra mentioned. Once we build the distribution point, we just distribute the package content to this DPs with the tool. And in review, I think we hope we covered the benefits of the automation, and also we emphasized the importance, and we talked about the orchestrated workflow and how we do the upgrades and continuous upgrades within our Microsoft IT environment in the changing environment. And also, as a key takeaway, we are going to give you the scripts so that you can use them and then try to build your own workflow. And also, I'm sure this will help you in saving your time, saving your cost, because it's going to cut down the man-hours in your upgrade of your hierarchy tremendously. And there are some related contents. There is another session that me and Dharmendra are doing tomorrow about how we use SP1 in Config Manager SP1 in Microsoft IT. And also there is one more session to talk about app delivery, which is given by our product group. And the next session is about how the hierarchy for Config Manager works in the SP1.
So in our tomorrow's session, today we talked about all our server upgrades. Tomorrow we're going to talk about client upgrades. Tomorrow it's all about client. How do we do our client upgrades, and what are the practices we follow? How do we do Windows 8 applications?
How do we do Mac management for clients?
Yeah, surprisingly we have Mac clients too, because we had to develop Office for Mac, right? So we have a lot of devs that are using Mac too. So.
Okay. Cool. And there is some more additional information about System Center, and I'm sure you might have seen this many times in this session, like Channel 9 and Learning and MSDN. And the important one is the evaluator session after this by either through the computer or by scanning the code on the screen. And with that, I appreciate your time in coming and attending our session. And thanks a lot. We are here for any questions. And thanks again.